Let me start by calling our respected guests to join us on the stage over here. I will first request everyone to please get seated and then let this evening begin. If everybody could please get a seat, I would appreciate that. Thank you. So I would begin by asking our respected guest, Chief Guest Dr. Farhan Nizami, to please come and join us on the stage. Professor Mary Debate, Guest of Honor, please come and join us on the stage. Kausar Bhai, Kausar Usmani, President FAA, please join us on the stage. Shah Kassar Khan, Treasurer FAA, please join us on the stage. And I'm Asya Kabir, I'm the Secretary of FAA. So again, salams and good evening to everyone. So thank you for settling down and let's get this evening started. As the Secretary of AANY and the Secretary of FAA, I thank each and every one of you in this room for having taken the time to grace this occasion with your presence. Each person in this room has brought with them their own set of journey. For a lot of us, this journey began at Aligarh Muslim University, so 3 cheers for that. So without much further ado, let me call Faisal Kareem to begin with Tilawat of the Quran.
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. الدين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين صدق الله العظيم.
Thank you, Faisal. MashaAllah. It's always a pleasure to hear you do the tilawat. And a boy well raised by his parents. So I would like to now request Kausar Bhai, President FAA, to please come and welcome the guests.
Thank you, Asya. Assalamu alaikum and good evening. I know I did welcome some of you in the morning session, but there are more people over here, so I have to repeat it. I hope that you will bear with me for that. So, greetings from Aligarh Alumni Association of New York. We are honored to host this 22nd convention of the Federation of Aligarh Alumni Associations. The Federation is an umbrella body of about 17, to be honestly exactly 17 associations across the country in United States, and I'm happy to announce there is another association from Canada, ANU Canada. They have already submitted their application to me to join the Federation. And we are also in conversation with some other association abroad, and we will have to do something about our BOD, BOT and council to include, to open our arms and include more and more associations so that we can grow bigger. The one more thing, as you guys have been coming here on the annual Sir Syed Day dinner on various locations for last so many years. And for that, like this year will be a mushara on 14th of October, inshallah. And this year, the good thing is like there will be just one mushara under the umbrella of Federation, and that all the associations will be joining that. In fact, like they have already submitted their application that they will be with us. So that's a very great news. There are some associations doing just online mushara or hybrid mushara, but majority of them doing in-person mushara. So we will expect you just stay tuned with our emails and WhatsApp group. You will be notified when we are going to do that exactly, and how to get the tickets and also sponsor. That will be a much bigger event, inshallah. So just stay tuned for that. It gives me great pleasure to honor our chief guest, Dr. Farhan Nizami, Director, Founder of the Oxford Center for Islamic Studies. Our guest of honor, Dr. Mary Debay of Brooklyn College, City University of New York. She is the advocate of Aligarh cause in the mainstream in United States. Wherever she goes, she talks nice and good about the Aligarh community and also about Aligarh Muslim University. So that's very nice of you. Thank you, Mary. And then also our guest, Professor Jacqueline Shannon, Professor Lisa Lee, and Professor Kumar Rahman Saiba. They are all our guests. Some of them, they have been there in the morning also, but again, like Ali Rizvi Bhai is here. Thank you, Ali Bhai, for coming here, and welcome to this event. And then forgive me if I don't remember all the names, but like there are so many seniors here. Tanvi Bhai is sitting there, Parvez Bhai is there, Hassan Fazli Bhai is coming shortly, inshallah. One thing I would just like to mention that two of our very senior colleagues, in fact, they are almost like, one of them is senior most, I believe, across the country. Professor Asadur Rahman Saab, he is also from Brooklyn College, but he is like, mashallah, is like well-lived, and then he is still doing good, but he cannot make it because of his health reasons. And he has given his regards and dua and prayer to everybody over here, and he wanted to send a video message, but he could not do that. But he has been coming to till our last event, which was last year, October, and his heart is there. He has also established a scholarship for the journalists across the country, not across the world, in any place. If you know any good journalist, we'll be presenting the award to that journalist in our Mushara, inshallah, on 14th October. Another senior colleague, which has been like always with us, her heart is still there, Tahira Baji, or Tahira Hussain, everybody knows her as a Tahira Baji. She has also sent her dua, pyar, and regards, love, and she is giving us like, hopefully this convention will be great success. So this is the second convention after a gap of 20 years. However, there was like online convention in 2020 when Tanveer Bhai was president. but we could not do because of the COVID reasons. So this is the physical convention is after a gap of 20 years in New York City. So our team, both Federation and AANY, has been doing tirelessly working for last at least 4 to 5 months, as far as I remember, maybe even more, to make this event a successful and happy, memorable event for everybody. I hope you will like it and enjoy it. Thank you.
I would like to invite Tanveer Ahmed to kindly come here on the podium and give an introduction to our guest of honor, Professor Malik Mehdi.
Is this working? Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to this event, and I'm delighted to be here. The most difficult part of any function is to introduce the guest of honor or chief guest. And it's very difficult, to be very honest with you. Sometimes people give you a write-up. I'm not used to write-up, but unfortunately I have to. And also, I am not used to looking at the documents of paper. But anyway, this is the difficult job, but I will try my best. Again, welcome. So far I know Mary Dubé received her bachelor degree in early childhood education at Brooklyn College, a master's degree in early childhood special education from the University of Vermont, and a PhD in program development and evaluation at the State University of New York at Albany. Currently, she is a faculty member of the Early Childhood Education Program at Brooklyn College of the City University of New York. She came to Brooklyn as the Early Childhood Education Program head to restructure, expand the early childhood program to include educating teachers to work with infants and toddlers, to create a development and inclusive early childhood special education program for undergraduate students, and to expand practice teaching in low-resourced communities in Brooklyn. She began her international work as the founder and director of the Center for Creative Teaching, educating teachers to work in early childhood through adolescent education at Bennington College, Vermont. She had, this is the best part, she had visited Aligarh Muslim University in the year of 2017, and was blown away by the grandeur of the Sir Syed Day celebration at the university. Since then, she has been focusing on developing and conducting educational and early intervention program that meets the needs of early childhood education in India. Dr. Debe has also visited Jamia Millia Islamia and presented her thoughts on children's responses to television programs, building intellectual autonomy and understanding brain development. During her visit to AMU, Dr. Debe had delivered lectures to the students and faculty that focused on creating effective learning environment in early childhood education. Dr. Debe has worked very hard and has been influential in signing the Memorandum of Understanding AMU signed by Professor Tariq Mansour, the ex-Vice Chancellor of Aligarh Muslim University, with President Michelle J. Anderson of Brooklyn College of City University of New York, CUNY, at the Federation of Aligarh Alumni Associations, annual convention held at Neva, California on July 14 to 15, 2017. I was a part of it too. In continuation of this MOU, 2 scholars participated in a 4-week intensive training on early intervention, including child development, parenting, infant mental health and applied behavioral analysis at Brooklyn College in early childhood and art education department. Under the guidance and the leadership of Dr. Dubey, Brooklyn College, City University of New York, an intensive 1-week early intervention training was conducted for the ICRA International Hospital and Research Center's faculty and physicians in Kozhikode, Kerala. And list goes on and on. And we are very privileged to have her here. And I would like to say something which happened in the interaction when I was in Brooklyn College for a meeting with the president of the Brooklyn College, with our vice chancellor. The first question when I was in the meeting, she asked me a question. Tell me, what is there in Aligarh different than the rest of the universities? Because when she visited our university, she felt something different. And she was asking me the question, and my answer was, yes, there is something different. You will not find this quality, this thing, ingredient in any other university. And I tell my kids too. So we are like beads. We are spread throughout the world. And once we go on that part of the world, we started growing. जिसको grow कहते हैं, एक दूसरे में बना रहते हैं. Then we come by like a tasbih. So what I told her, this is how we are. Just due to being a league, we tie each other. No matter where we are, what time we are, no matter. As long as we know there is a league here in there, we tie. But anyway, without further ado, thank you very much, Mr. Dubai, to come here. Please come here and say whatever you have to say. You feel free to say whatever you want to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. It's always intimidating to speak to a Leaguer alumni. I want to thank all the Leaguer alumni and those who would like to be a Leaguer alumni for having me here this evening. It is a true honor. It's an honor to be at such a festive occasion. 5 years ago, as was said, I had the privilege of visiting a Leaguer with my dear colleague, Shaheen Usmani, during the CRCN celebration. And I was blown away, you're absolutely right. We'd been to India the prior year to a conference on the use of technology in education. And I believe you call it your sister, the younger sister university, Jamia Millia Islamia. And it was fabulous. But on our return, Dr. Usmani said, next year, a Leaguer. And I'm like, we just got back, Shaheen, but she was on a mission. What she wished to do is spread, talk, have everyone believe at her alma mater that the education of young children, those with disabilities, those underprivileged, all children should have a quality early childhood education. And that year,
I heard over and over, Mary, you're going to a leaguer next year. And I had no idea what she was talking about. I had never heard of a leaguer, but I was soon to know a great deal. She still has this mission that she works tirelessly, and my thing is she can just tell me what to do and I'll do it, because I know there's a whole vast world that she's going to expose me to. Dr. Usmani and I share a passionate interest in the field and study of young children. During a time at a leaguer, as she said, we probably presented 5 or 6 times, including to the faculty and students at the medical college and to the women's college, to the education faculty. It went on and on. We talked about how children learn through play, how to set up classrooms, how to include children with disabilities, early intervention, et cetera, et cetera. In conversation and observing what was around me, I was learning about higher education, a place I have worked in for decades. The more I saw, the more deeply I thought about my own experience in higher education as a student and as a professor. That experience, as we say in early childhood, made me change my schema, my way of thinking about higher education as I tried to assimilate all the new information that was coming into me. As all of you know, which I had not yet grasped, a leaguer is a fraternity, a sorority, a family, or whichever word you wish to use to mean that you make a deep commitment. And once you commit, you're all in. This message of belonging, of commitment, continues to resonate with me. What I learned in a leaguer continues to inform my work in developing programs for educating young children and in my own teaching practice. When learning new things at a leaguer, as I did at a leaguer, all this information is coming in. What do you do with it? You tie it into something you know, your experiences. And I needed to adjust my thinking to have this new information come into me. When teaching students to become teachers of young children, I think that we need to educate children to do things, to make things, build things, put things together. I also want children to feel things, to make connections, to care for others, to care for things, to care for work. And of course, I want them to build knowledge, to learn, to create memory. There are children's schools around the world built on these what are really Waldorfian ideas. This philosophy is often referred to developing the hand, the doing, the heart, the feeling, and the mind, the thinking. In shorthand, we call it hand, heart, and mind. That's what we want. That's what I came to a leaguer thinking about. What made my time at AMU profound, however, was what I knew about children was actually happening at a university, at the highest level of education that we see in India. It seems simple, but it was not. It was profound. Here was this model I thought was for children, all around me. Now, spending decades working with children with disabilities, I am trained to look closely at words and actions. That is what tells me what's going on. I can have a feeling about a child, But unless I hear something, I see something, I don't make judgments. I need to have evidence in order to work with children. I feel the same way about a leaguer. I have to give you some evidence, some things I saw that made me feel so deeply about how the university educates the whole person, the hand, the heart, the mind. When I say hand, it means the doing of doing things, not just taking it in. So what exactly did I see at AMU that so affected me to also make me go fully in? First, at the Leaguer CRC celebration, I attended large sessions, which always began with a formal thank you, a formal welcome to all the important guests. And then it always included a heartful and welcome to my dear students. I have attended many, many conferences in my day, but this had a different texture. We include students, we welcome them, but this told me, welcome dear students, that you are at the heart of the work. The students are there. The commitment to have the next generation come through a leaguer was apparent at every session I went to. That is developing heart. That is developing feelings and the mind. Let me see. The development of the hand, heart, and mind at AMU does not just happen in the classroom, I found. It happens, it's a total experience. I saw it everywhere I went around the campus, and it's quite a large campus. One of the challenges in bringing back what I learned of the hand, heart, and mind at the university level is that at Brooklyn College, it's a commuter school. Almost all of our students are working, and many have families and taking care of families. It's hard to create that educational environment when people are in and out. What AMU has is this group that is committed to that place. They're there. And so it's a real challenge to me to think about how we do that back at Brooklyn College. But AMU begins to provide examples, because the examples are sometimes subtle. Sometimes you don't notice exactly what the college is doing. For example, one of the things I observed was the building of a museum. They looked at great detail at artifacts that are often found in the basements of the older buildings at Illegal. They brought them up, and with students' help, curated the displays that told them about themselves, about their history. It was impressive. Science was clearly evident in the building of the solar farm. I was impressed. It is so necessary at this age, during this time. What they were teaching in the solar farm, students took me around, the importance of developing a sustainable planet, and that they were a part of it. They were part of a community that was larger than themselves. Again, I was impressed. At the time, and I think this is right, I'm not sure, can you say preservation of a mosque? They were working on the mosque. They were preserving the mosque. They were making things that needed help. They were helping fix it. I watched students go by. It's a beautiful mosque. It just needed some repair, but it was not considered a work site, right? Students came and just watched. It wasn't off limits because we're working on it. No, this is something that's important to us, and we want to make it fine. And we want you to observe, we want you to talk about it. Students were around it. And again, when I go back to hand, heart, and mind, the fixing of the mosque is really one of those things that opens up the hand, heart, and mind. I also attended a dinner at the Vice Chancellor's home, where a faculty member presented how to desalt ocean water. Now that is way out of my comfort zone, but others that were there said, this is cutting edge, this is wonderful. The discussion, however, turned into much more than just desalting the ocean, which is extraordinarily important in this time of the weather that we have. They discussed, everyone around that table discussed the importance of the project for humanity and how best to involve the leaguer students, that they would know the importance of this. Then, in the guest house at night, 2 students were assigned to me to make sure I was well, to make sure I had everything I needed. They spent time speaking to me, telling me about their education, and wanting to know what I thought of a leaguer. I could not yet put it into words, all I was thinking, but I let them know what they were doing, feeling, and learning was really, really special. Again, the hand, heart, and mind. I do not fool myself. 20-year-olds don't think I'm that, cool, that why would they speak to me? I did have a lot of US chocolate, and it just kept growing and growing. I don't know, I didn't think I brought so much, but it was always there every night. In closing, I want to thank you to continue to share with me the Illeaguer model of educating the hand, heart, and mind. During this time of great concern of people in education, we need the Illeaguer movement. Tonight, as you sing the beautiful AMU anthem, I'll be thinking of the garden that was built in the founding of AMU, and as an alum, how well you tend to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Dubé, for that very inspirational speech. Your love for Aligarh is so apparent in your speech, your words, as well as more so in your work. Thank you again. Thank you. I would just request our guests, just a humble request, to please turn off your phones or put them on silence, at least at the dinner time, and then you're free to switch on back again. So now I will invite Tazeen Apa, Dr. Tazeen Bey, to please come on the podium and give an introduction to our chief guest, Dr. Nizam.
Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon, everyone. Our keynote speaker today needs no introduction. He's a historian who has literally made history himself by establishing the prestigious Oxford Center for Islamic Studies at one of the most iconic universities of the world, one that has been existing continuously for more than 9 centuries. That's correct, 922 years. Academia runs in his veins, being born with an AMU enrollment number, as he put it this morning. His family has been associated with the Aligarh movement for generations. Everyone here knows him, or at least someone from the family. He has rubbed shoulders with the likes of King Charles, Pope John Francis, President Jimmy Carter, Sonia Gandhi, and various other leaders of the world. He has sat on international advisory and steering committees, including lectures at the World Economic Forum. Just recently, he served as an international observer at the presidential elections in Uzbekistan. He's a commander of the Order of the British Empire, the Prince of Wales Fellow at the Magdalen College, Oxford, Emeritus Fellow at St. Cross College, Oxford, founder, editor of the Journal of Islamic Studies, editor of a monograph series, Makers of Islamic Civilization, published by Oxford University Press, and the list goes on. And in his spare time, he designs gardens and wooden auditoriums. You have to go and see it, really. It's beautiful. The Oxford Center for Islamic Studies is an institution for advanced studies on Islam and the societies in the Muslim world. It was established under the patronage of the then Prince of Wales and now His Majesty King Charles III. It advocates for international dialogue and understanding between the Islamic world and the West through visiting fellowships for scholars from around the world and international outreach, annual meets, and conferences. For its achievements, it was granted a royal charter by Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth II in 2012. Dr. Farhan Nizami, or Farhan Bhai as I call him, has been an inspiration for me, for my husband, Irfan, and who is his childhood friend, and I'm sure many of us here also. He's a very simple, humble, and down-to-earth person. Is it just me or a coincidence that Sir Syed Ahmad Khan went to Aligarh and established the Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College in 1875, I believe, on the pattern of Oxford and Cambridge universities? And Dr. Nizami went to Oxford and established the center. It has come full circle. And that, I believe, makes him undoubtedly one of the most distinguished alumni of our alma mater. And in the words of Majaz, the words of Majaz actually hold true, at least in this case. Jo ab yahan se utha tha, wo Oxford mein barsa, sare jahan pe baras raha hai. Please welcome our chief guest, Professor.
Assalamu alaikum. After such an introduction, it is very daunting to speak and try to say something in 15 minutes. In any case, I was unsure what would I say this evening. So those who might have read some of my few works on Aligarh, I hope would forgive me if I am found out to be plagiarizing. But before I start, I wanted to thank the organizers of this convention for having thought of me. For somebody born and bred in Aligarh, this is a great honor, and I am delighted to be here. Also, I was wondering what to talk about. And I thought perhaps the best would be if I did something which I haven't tried before, but I hope with your indulgence I could get by in trying to draw some parallels between what Sir Syed did and say and what he dreamt of and what are its lessons for us today. We all know how wonderful Aligarh is. We all know what a tremendous thing that Sir Syed did. But so what? There were many other very distinguished people in the 19th century. There were many other people across the world who did big things. But what is it so important about Sir Syed that come October, right across the world, there would be people talking of him and singing the university anthem? And that's one of the things that people often say, why do Algerians always go on talking about Sir Syed and these big events? I think there is a very important function that such gatherings perform, because it is in remembrance that we learn about ourselves. It is necessary for us to remember from where we come in order to understand where we are and where we would like to be. That is the function. And I think it would be a great irony if we just stopped at the first stage, which is to remember. I think we have to move on to the second stage of why it is that we are here. Indeed, Sir Syed himself pointed out that he didn't want the community to live in the past. He didn't want us just to have good memories. He wanted us to have a bright future. And I think if we do not do that, we would be, as it were, letting down Sir Syed. There won't be people going around the world making a great mark. We would just be using this as an excuse for our inaction. Yes, there are great things that have been done by our forefathers, but what is needed today is something that is relevant today. Now, of course, I don't want to be churlish by just talking about these things that we haven't done. I am as much aware of the joys of Aligarh as anyone else would. Aligarh indeed conjures up images, many happy memories for me, for all of us. In fact, one of the most evocative images of Aligarh is in one of the writings of my late father, when he talked of the richness and tranquility of Aligarh's residential life, the fun and excitement of the playing fields, the emotion and oratory of the Union Club, the concentration and dedication of the classrooms, and above all, the wit and humor of hostel life, some of which we experienced this morning. Now, he dedicated that book to the unsuffocating atmosphere of Aligarh, the affection and paternal care of authorities for the hostel inmates, the esprit de corps among students, and their sense of service both to the community and the nation. To the excellence in studies, achievements in sports and courage of convictions that Aligarh symbolized. To the father-like and selfless teachers, devoted and kind, affectionate and loving, who molded with care and concern young and restless spirits from different regions and religions into Algerians, who jealously guarded the traditions of the university and pressed them on from generation to generation. Now, if this was the Aligarh that we remember, I think it is important for us to remember, is this the Aligarh that we find today? And if not, what are we doing about it? I think there is a big responsibility on the Algerians, on the federations. And I think the responsibilities are at two levels. One, for which I think we have to thank the different associations in this country, the scholarships that they have been providing, the different projects that they have been supporting at the university, the idea of maintaining the fabric of that institution. That is important and indeed should be welcomed. But there is a bigger responsibility. And that bigger responsibility, I believe, is to maintain the spirit of Aligarh. Aligarh is not just a university. If we made it like any other place where you go and get a piece of paper which gives us a degree, then we have failed in our responsibility to Aligarh. It is to maintain that spirit, that message of Aligarh, which was relevant not only to that small town in Uttar Pradesh, it is as much relevant today wherever we might be, whether it is in the United States or whether we are in Europe or anywhere in the world. And so if Aligarh has many challenges, indeed some self-inflicted and some beyond our control, yet there are opportunities from what we have learned and what the inspiration was. Because indeed, if we fulfill those responsibilities, I hope to some extent we might be fulfilling the hope and expectation of those who, after the death of Sir Syed, talked about in a famous couplet, "Wo sagahe qaum hoga tera sange asta, naqshe pa par tere lakhon qafle aane ko hai." Now, if we do not have those different caravans following in the footsteps, then what is so special about Aligarh? And indeed, we know that it was said of Sir Syed that he saw the challenges and then he, with determination, continued to do something about those challenges. Again, if I may quote, because I know Aligarh audiences like to know about Aligarh poetry, दिखलाया ज़माने को ज़ोर दिल और दिमाग बतला दिया कि करने वाले करते हैं ऐसे काम. This was Sir Syed. He tried, he worked, and he succeeded. But we haven't, to that extent, even to a small extent, tried to do that. So I just want to very briefly draw out some of the things that we need to bear in mind, where I hope we can make a contribution. One of the biggest things that Sir Syed emphasized on was to avoid sectarianism, communalism, divisions amongst ourselves. वना करना फिरकाबंदी के लिए अपनी ज़मा छुप के बैठा हुआ है हंगामे महशर यहाँ. Now this is true not only of Aligarh, this is true of New York as well. This is true of Washington as well. The sectarianism might have been there of a different kind, but we have the same difficulties, the same challenges here. And it is the responsibility of Aligarhians to try to do something about it. Now, of course, Sir Syed was an author we all know about. He was a thinker, a legislator, a journalist, an advocate, emphasized interreligious dialogue, emphasized science and religion and so on, and I can go on about it, but you already know all that. I think where it is important is whichever walk of life we come across today, there is something that we could learn from the thought of Sir Syed. Indeed, as Hali said, तेरे एहसान रह कर याद आएंगे उनको करेंगे जिक्र हर मजलिस में वो दोहराएंगे उनको. Sir Syed has very often been viewed exclusively in the context of his immediate environment. I think that is a mistake. No doubt he was addressing the specific issues of 19th century North India. But the lessons that we can draw from his life are applicable to most of the societies in the contemporary world. So therefore, what I want to do very briefly, and I don't think I would succeed because I know there is a great discipline that we have fought to follow in terms of time, is the larger context in which we should view Sir Syed in these globalized times. Before I do that, let me explain how and why his ideas can be relevant today. The tragedy of Muslims in mid-19th century North India has been very well encapsulated in a lot of literature. They lost their lands, they lost their families, they lost their identity, they lost their religion. There was many different challenges. I don't have to spell out similar challenges in other parts of the world. The idea was that this was one way in which one could meet the challenges that Sir Syed put forward, and that was recourse to modern education. That is the essence of his message. Education is relevant. It's not something that can be done only in Aligarh. It can be done anywhere in the world, but that is where it is important. Don't get me wrong, I love Aligarh as much as anyone else would do. So Sir Syed himself took a very different line, which he felt was necessary, in a sense unavoidable, he thought, and was the right thing to do. He believed Muslims needed to understand the reasons for their decline and to look for ways to refresh and renew their resources. Many of those whom Sir Syed inspired went on to do very important things across South Asia. Indeed, Maulana Muhammad Ali said, दिखाया था तुमने कौम को ये शोर व शर सारा जो इसकी इंतहा हम हैं तो इसकी इब्तदा तुम हो. I wish we could, if not the intiha, at least the ibtada of what was started. Because today Muslims across the world generally lack the means and know-how to become truly independent, culturally, economically, and in every sense of the word. With the increasing pressure of globalization, and indeed the overwhelming dominance of the social media, the situation of Muslims in the world remains much the same as Sir Syed framed it in his time. Western civilization has maintained its dominance, economic, cultural, in every sense of the word. Its cultural reach is more powerful, in some respects even strengthened than it was much earlier. And the fundamental question that Sir Syed put to the Muslims in India over a century ago remains as relevant today as they were there. And it is the question that is often asked of us, wherever we may be, whether here or elsewhere, what side are you on? Are you on the side of modernity or on the side of conservatives? Sir Syed's message had many elements in it, and I wish to pick out just a few in the few minutes that remain to me. First, Sir Syed emphasized the responsibility for the community. It is very well that an individual can win success and be very successful here or anywhere in the world. But if he is identified with a community that is regarded with disdain, the honor he has won counts for little. And that is so important that we should recognize that unless we bring an honor to the community, individual success really does not matter. In today's world, the opportunities to migrate from India to the United States, or from India to the United Kingdom, or wherever in the Middle East, or so on and so forth, have increased dramatically. However, the lesson from Sir Syed's words is to continue to belong where you come from, and to care for the societies that you have left behind. To use whatever we have gained to benefit the community. This should mean more than sending remittances to families or institutions in India. It should mean investing personal as well as financial resources in enabling the community to secure itself economically and culturally, and to regain its control of the present and future. As for those who have settled permanently in the West, their sense of attachment to and responsibility for the well-being, say, of Muslims or the community generally in North India as a whole need not, and indeed should not, be in conflict with the compromise, should not be in conflict with, or should not lead to any compromise in their belonging and responsibility to wherever they have settled. Indeed, for those who are fortunate enough to be in the United States, one should recognize that by being here, by doing well here, we can do much more to the higher causes that we were brought up on. Indeed, Hali put it, अगर रास आ गई आब व हवा इस खेत की हमको तो जो उठेगा पौधा इस ज़मीन से आसमां होगा. There is much more that one can do for the people in India, indeed for Aligarh itself, by being successful here. So that's one message, and that is something that people have been doing. I'm well aware of that. But I want to turn briefly to the other challenge. That is that securing the present and the future of a people depends on right preparation, the right education. If we do not do that, just as during the pandemic we realized that no one is safe unless everyone is safe. If many of the people are not well educated, we all will pay the price of this. And we should also recognize, in order to maintain our identity, that just a strictly secular education, with which we might get very impressed by being here, does not necessarily lead to great success. It leads to a narrowing of the vision and can sometimes lead to self-oriented lifestyles. The education that disdains training people in the means to secure their place in the world and prosper in it equally also weakens the mental and cultural energies of the people. So it is the balance between both the secular and the religious education that Sir Syed talked about is what is needed. I would therefore suggest that the fundamental questions that Sir Syed put to the Muslims of India over a century and a half ago remain as relevant today as they were then, and therefore they need to be asked still and answered as best as we can for our times and our circumstances. तुम्हें कहता है कौन मुर्दा कौन, तुम जिंदों के जिंदा हो, तुम्हारी खूबियाँ जिंदा, तुम्हारी नेकियाँ बाकी. Sir Syed had laid particular emphasis on the ideals of the common good and public service. Addressing his contemporaries, he pointed out that an individual may get success, as I said, but prosperity and honors and celebrity, but that doesn't mean anything unless it also passes on to the community as a whole. And it was this broad-minded approach that anticipated the requirements of a modern, multicultural society where there is a great need for mutual respect and tolerance. And that is the sort of society in which we live here today. Sir Syed wanted his community not only a great past, as I said earlier, but a great future, not memories, but hope. And this is where, if you would allow me to say so, that the Federation here should remind the younger generation of the future. They should build on the successes of their forefathers to create the Aligarh movement in the United States, not just supporting things elsewhere. Because if these people succeed here, that would have a bigger impact on the ultimate mission rather than just trying to do it over there. Sir Syed regarded Hindus and Muslims of India as the two eyes, and we all know those. I think there are other communities here where that ability to reach out to communities should be practiced and demonstrated in this country and indeed elsewhere.
So I think I should bring it to a close, but I have a few other suggestions. Nevertheless, there would be other opportunities, I hope, when we could develop those. There are many parallels between many of the things that Sir Syed did, whether it was in journalism, whether it was in education, whether it was training the students basically on the pattern of English public schools, those sort of things that can be replicated elsewhere. The idea was basically to make them relevant to the world and to the society where they were living. There's absolutely no reason why that should not be done in other societies and so on, as long as they retain their identity and their commitment to their faith. So, I do not think that Sir Syed imagined or that it was possible for Muslims to recover a decisive political role in the world stage in his time. His efforts were not aimed at the recovery of the power in the world, but of the authority of Islam in the aspirations and lifestyles of his people. In that sense, his legacy for us represented, and indeed Aligarh represents that today, an intellectual temperament, a cast of mind, which is relevant as much in New York as it is in other parts of the world. So let me restate very briefly what some of these contemporary aspects. The gains of political independence in different parts of the world and had been undermined by the processes of globalization, which are far more subtle than perhaps we fully realize. It's not as if the British have left Aligarh and therefore now, one could have. There are challenges. There are challenges in the political order, in the public sphere, whether it is in India, whether it is here, whether it is wherever it may be. But the idea is to create those people who are fit enough to face those challenges in an appropriate manner. Like Sir Syed, we should have the vision to help and recover our dignity in our own eyes and in the eyes of the world. The cost to us, in order to achieve that, the cost is not our religion or our culture, but our willingness to recognize that the intellectual, social, and political habits that we have inherited from our near past are inadequate to cope with the realities of the contemporary world. The intellectual temperament championed by Sir Syed strove to see historical realities as they were, not as one that we might wish them to have been. And it strives for an accurate accounting and measure of the present. It sees the advantage of a conscious and consistent effort. It calls for constructive engagement in the public sphere. It sees the benefit that flows from an intellectual life which is based on a rational view of sciences. It sees the advantages of criteria and methodologies that are as near as practicable shared between different scholarly traditions, so that we, as Muslims, contribute once again to intellectual space that we share with the others. And therefore, I would like to end by inviting all of us to rededicate ourselves to the vision of Sir Syed, adapted to the space and time in which we find ourselves. The vision that hoped that the students from his college may expand, and he hoped that that college might expand into a university, whose sons shall go forth throughout the length and breadth of the land to preach the gospel of free inquiry, of large-hearted toleration, and of pure morality. Surely, Sir Syed was not just thinking of Aligarh or indeed of Uttar Pradesh. We need to be thinking bigger and our role is therefore relevant from wherever we might be. Sir Sayyid's legacy represents an intellectual temperament, a cast of mind that continues to be as relevant in India as in the West. It's only by renewing our commitment to that vision, to those values and the causes that he espoused that we could legitimately say with Majaz, जो अब यहाँ से उठेगा वो सारे जहाँ पर बरसेगा. Thank you.
Sorry, bus से दोगुना view there.
Words are enough to express how inspired your speech is. I would just say that my father, who's visiting us from India, he, as in like the old-fashioned way, this morning he took down some notes, quoted some of your sentences. So I'm going to use those words that he has written down for us as an inspiration to do more on a community level. I've been trying to do things on an individual level, but I really took heed from your words. Thank you so much again. Thank you. Moving on, I don't know if this is a typo, but it says missing Apple iPad. Does anybody have an iPad on the tables? Could you just check? Under the flyers or behind the glasses? Please make sure there's no missing iPad, Apple iPad. No? Sure? You don't have to look under the tables, is it? None on the tables.
Maybe in the car.
Oh, no, sorry, it's not a typo. I'm sorry. It's saying that one of us here is going to leave this place tonight with an Apple iPad. So today we have a guest speaker from Wall Street Alliance Group to give us an informative talk about tax and investment planning in 2023. Adil Zaman is a partner at Wall Street Alliance Group who frequently appears on networks such as CNBC, Bloomberg, Fox Business, and Medscape. Adil was named to be the 2020 edition. In the 2020 edition, he was named as one of the top retirement advisors of He was named as one of the top retirement advisors. Wall Street Alliance Group will be passing out a questionnaire for you to complete. So you can be, once you have completed the questionnaire, you can be included in a raffle tonight where one winner will be getting an Apple iPad. So please make sure not to leave any questions blank and to complete the entire questionnaire so that you can be actually included in the raffle. If you should, we can get some information from this as well as move on to our next program. So please make sure not to leave any questions blank. So please welcome Adil Zaman, partner, Wall Street Alliance Group. Thank you.
Thank you for the kind introduction. Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Adil Zaman. I'm a partner at Wall Street Alliance Group. I've been invited here today to speak to you about the importance of financial planning. But first, we're going to have some fun. My team is distributing these questionnaires on your table for people who put their complete information on these questionnaires. We're going to be doing a raffle, and the winner is going to be getting an iPad. So please fill these out as soon as possible. We'll collect them back within the next few minutes so we can announce the winner before dinner is served. Everyone can hear me? All right, great. So, growing up, I always wanted to come to America for my education. But it's not an easy decision for a middle-class family to send their son to school in America. I still remember the conversation my parents had. My dad was telling my mom that, I've worked hard all my life and I have this much in savings. We can either buy a house or we can send our son to do his MBA to the US. Without a moment's hesitation, my mom said, I don't want a house, send our son to do his MBA to the US. That's how I arrived in America more than 20 years ago. Now, I'm sure many of you sitting over here have a similar story. Being immigrants, what we end up often doing is neglecting proper financial planning. And in America, proper financial planning is the foundation for providing our family stability. At Wall Street Alliance Group, we are a team of fiduciaries, from attorneys to actuaries to CPAs, so that very efficiently, under one umbrella, we can take care of all your financial planning needs. Now, can I get a show of hands? How many people sitting over here have a will set up? All right, so just to give you an idea, if you don't have a will, if God forbid you were to die, something as simple as the custody of your children will be decided not by their grandparents, it'll be decided by the government. You can avoid this problem by simply setting up a will. Now, can I get a show of hands as to how many people sitting over here have a trust set up? All right, so even if you have a will and you don't have a trust set up, after you die, what will happen is that the state will come in and they'll take control of all your assets, and your estate is going to go through a very lengthy and costly probate process, and it'll be a very long time before your children can get access to those assets. This lengthy and costly probate process can be avoided by simply setting up a revocable trust. Now, another mistake that people make is that after they die, they give their wealth to their children in their individual names. Now, God forbid, if the child goes through a divorce or if the child goes through a creditor issue, those assets get depleted. On the other hand, if you give the same assets to the child under the protection of an irrevocable trust, the child still has access to the assets, but in the case of a divorce, in the case of a creditor issue, those assets remain protected. Now, another mistake that people make is that they'll set up the trust, but they will not complete the funding of the trust. So funding of the trust is very important, which means that you have to update the titles and the beneficiaries so that they're in alignment with the trust in order to avoid probate. If you don't do the funding of the trust, probate will not be avoided. Now, as the law stands right now, for an individual, the estate tax exemption amount is 11.7 million. Which basically means that if you're an individual and this is scheduled to go down in 2026 to about 6 million, as the law stands right now. Which basically means that, if you were to die today and your net worth is about 11.7 million, there will be no estate taxes due. But if you were to die in 2026 and your net worth is about 11.7 million, you would owe about $2.3 million in estate taxes. You can avoid these estate taxes by using strategies, by locking in your higher exemption today, by using strategies such as gifting to a spousal access trust where you maintain indirect access through the spouse, or gifting to an irrevocable trust for the benefit of your children. Now, whenever we sit down with families, the number one complaint that we hear is that I'm paying too much in taxes. How many of you feel that you're paying too much in taxes? Can I get a show of hands? All right. So the good news is that there are still strategies that you can use to save money in taxes, not only in 2022, but not only in 2023, but also in 2022, if you implement them before the applicable tax filing deadlines. So, one of the best ways to save money in taxes is by contributing in a retirement account. Because if you're in the 40% tax bracket, for every $10,000 that you put in a retirement account, you end up saving about $4,000 in taxes. Now, there are many different types of retirement accounts, but just to give you an idea of how a defined benefit plan works, if you're a 52-year-old self-employed individual and you're in the 40% tax bracket, you can put away about $193,000 in a defined benefit plan, and it is completely tax deductible. This would mean a tax saving of about $77,000 a year. And over a 10-year period, we are looking at a tax saving of about $772,000. Now, you can still adopt and contribute to a defined benefit plan for the year 2022 as long as you do it before you file your business returns, no later than September 15th. Now, can I get a show of hands as to how many people over here invest in real estate? How many real estate investors? All right, so when you invest in real estate, you take a tax deduction for depreciation. So if you buy a building, let's say, for $1 million, you depreciate it over 39 years. You can do something called a cost segregation study where you can take an accelerated depreciation and reduce the depreciation life to 5 to 10 years. So for example, if it's $1 million building and you depreciate it over 10 years, you can take a deduction of about $100,000 every year to reduce your taxes. In 2022, you can take 100% business meal deduction for those of you who are self-employed. Now, this next one is very important for people that are self-employed and doctors that are in private practices. When Trump came in, he implemented what we call a SALT limitation. So he limited the deduction for state and local taxes to $10,000. This impacted a lot of us, especially in New York. And a lot of the states have implemented what we call a SALT workaround, where you can pay the state and local taxes through the business and get a full deduction. It's not automatic, you do have to elect for it, so definitely speak to your CPA about it. For those of you who are self-employed, you can purchase a vehicle that weighs over 6,000 pounds. As long as you are using it 100% for work, you can write off the entire cost of the vehicle as a business expense. Now, can I get a show of hands as to how many people over here give zakat? All right, so if let's suppose there's a year in which you have a very high tax bill, what you can do is instead of giving money to zakat annually, you could lump together 3 or 4 years and give the money to a charitable donor advice fund, get the full deduction in the year that you make the contribution, and you can disperse it to zakat over a number of years. Also in New York, for those of you who are in New York and have young children, contributing to a college 529 plan makes a lot of sense because in the state of New York, for married couples filing jointly, you get a $10,000 deduction for state taxes, and the money grows tax-free, and the withdrawals are tax-free as well, as long as you're using it for qualified education expenses.
Other than his group will be at one of the back tables. If you have any one-to-one questions, you could approach them. So, I just wanted to put in a word that I'm a New Yorker by heart, an Algerian and Indian, but also New Yorker by heart. And I have seen New York City a zillion million times, a lot of like nooks and crooks and corners, love every piece of it. But although I've seen New York City in like multiple different lights, I'm so excited to be going on the bus tour tomorrow. So what I'm going to do is, I know that we passed on a sheet this morning asking for like a list of people who want to go tomorrow, because it's just like going to help us prepare for the bus tour better, so that there are no like, last moment glitches. So I'm so excited to be seeing a lot of you there. So we would pass on like a sheet again, or you can go and like write your names on the registration table. I know that most of you wrote your names this morning. Please do me a favor and write your names again, just so that we can organize it, all right? So I'll be passing on a sheet, and then at the end you can also go back at the registration table and give your names. And it's the last, it's like the final moments. I'm sure you've made up your mind, already about tomorrow. All right, so we will weather the rain, hail, storm, whatnot. Keep your walking shoes on. I'm very excited about the bus tour tomorrow. So moving on, for presentation of award ceremony, I'm inviting Shaheen Usmani to please come and conduct the ceremony.
Assalamu alaikum everybody, and lucky me, I get to do the most beautiful part of the celebrations today. So I'm here to announce the awards and give away the awards. I invite Dr. Wasi Siddiqui to please come forward and honor Mr. Dr. Farhan Nizami with an award for his excellence in all ways.
Man, उनको क्या नाम है? रिकॉर्ड करना। शाहीन इनका नाम अनाउंस कर दीजिए।
The award was given to Dr. Farhan Nizami for his excellence in all ways by Dr. Wasi Siddiqui. I now request Mr. Parvez Jafri to please come forward. Parvez Jafri Sahab will be giving an award to Mary Dubey, Dr. Mary Dubey, my very good friend, and for her contributions to the field of early childhood education in US and in India. Congratulations, Mary. Also have a third award for a selfless services to Aligarh Alumni Association New York. Unfortunately, Mr. Riaz Alvi is not with us, but I'm just going to announce the award and we will give him the award on Sir Sayyid dinner. Thank you, everybody. I think it's now time to thank everyone. On behalf of our wonderful team, I'm here to thank you all for your presence and encouragement in making this event a success. We are grateful to our chief guest, Dr. Farhan Nizami, who has traveled all the way from England to grace the occasion. Special thanks to Dr. Mary Dubey from Brooklyn College, City University of New York. She has brought in a lot of warmth and good wishes. A big thank you to all AANY alumni who have made special efforts in travel from far off and not so far off places to be here. Your presence has made this convention special. Special thanks to the steering committee and members of BOD and BOT and the council for standing by us and for their valuable suggestions. We appreciate and thank Dr. Intizam Khan who has been supporting AANY alumni celebrations for many years. Thank you, Intizam Bhai. Thank you very much. Thank you to other sponsors, donors, Wall Street Alliance Group, Dr. Tazeen Beg, Dr. Mohsin Alvi, and Mr. Tanveer Ahmed. Congratulations to the newly elected officials of the Federation of Aligarh Alumni Association who have been working tirelessly for the past few months now. I would be lacking in my duty if I do not mention the names of our President, Mr. Kausar Usmani, and Secretary Asiya Kabir, Vice President Shah Shoaib Faizan, and Treasurer Bushra Karim for their excellent work and guidance. The AANY team surely deserves applause for coming together strong, dedicated, and united in all ways. And last but not the least, we wish to thank the audience today for their encouragement. We hope you have enjoyed the convention so far and will be taking away some very good memories. And there's more to come. Thank you everybody. Enjoy. Okay, now, hold on. There's a big thing coming up. We have the Tarana now, please. All right, so we got to hold on.
Wall Street Alliance Group.
There is a service award for our very senior AANY and Federation member, Janab Riaz Alvi Sahab. I would request Janab Hasan Fazli Bhai to please come over here and give away the award to Riaz Alvi Sahab. is giving away award, service award to AANY Bhai.
इधर देखिए प्लीज साथ हो जाए तंजीर भाई तंजीर आइए
Thank you.